Welcome. Read One Communication presents The Scholar's Chair. Our theme tonight is Stop the Hate. Our guest is Rabbi Steve Weisman, prayer leader at Temple of Solel in Bowie, Maryland, and he is the chair of the Interfaith Council of Bowie. Along with him is Muslim intellectual Dr. Safi Kaskas. He is the author of the inspiring book entitled Quran with References to the Bible, a Contemporary Understanding. Welcome to the Scholar's Chair, everyone. This program is a part of a Stop the Hate campaign that we decided to take upon ourselves as we are into our third month now in producing programs to try to eradicate society against hatred towards others, regardless of their religion and ethnicity. Our topic tonight is, does religious exclusivity prevent a cohesive society, a cohesive community?
I would say that religious exclusivity is any time that one takes an approach to others that leaves them out of an opportunity, a group, a discussion, and claims that the basis for doing so is a teaching from their faith tradition.
I think any time we're with a group of people, or whether on social media or in person, talking to them about a particular idea, and then they want to exclude some because their religion asked them to exclude them, or because they did not believe. For instance, let's take Islam as an example, instead of beating around the bush. All day long, I'm fighting with Muslims who believe any Jew or Christian who heard about Prophet Muhammad and doesn't follow him cannot be saved. And despite what the Quran teach about this. So this is exclusivism. They think they're better than others. They're practicing it. They never been exposed to Jews or to Christians or to Hindus, but they take a position of exclusivism.
It's very interesting. It almost, your definitions almost absolutely match the dictionary definition, which says it is a doctrine or belief that only one particular religion or belief system is true. So this is in contrast to religious pluralism, which believes that all religions provide valid responses to the existence of God. Can you concur? Can you agree with the notion of that definition of pluralism, that it is it says that all religions provide valid responses to the existence of God? Can you respond to that, Rabbi Weisman?
Can I respond to that definition you just read first?
Yes, of course.
Because I think it took a different approach to religious exclusivity than both I did and Dr. Kaskas did.
Good.
The definition I just heard is talking about recognition group to group, where I think where I was headed was using my religion to claim that somebody else is not valid at all as an individual. I think they're both dangerous. I think, sadly, as Dr. Kaskas pointed out, we are all dealing with it. It's not just you all in the Muslim community. It's certainly not just the Christian community. I look to the Jewish community, and there are constantly issues where some within my community do not want to be associated with others in our community because of what they believe. So I think there's at least three elements to it that I think we have to deal with here. One is how groups approach other individuals outside, how groups internally within their own religious identity and ideology deal with each others and individuals, and then the whole question of using our religion as a tool of exclusivity in terms of hammering other people with it. And I think they're all related, but they're all very different. So the idea of trying to get to an ideal of religious diversity and peaceful coexistence requires us to address all three. And they're all addressed in very different ways.
Yes. Well, I'm going to let you explore that for us, because I think that there are some fundamental principles involved, as you have said, and show us the distinction, the difference, Rabbi, if you would, because these questions I've presented to you are within that group.
Absolutely.
So we'll take one step. Dr. Kaskas, the question I have in my mind to want to ask you is religious diversity relevant to peaceful coexistence? I mean, do you think, because of the Quranic position that if God so willed, he could have created one humanity, one religion, but he chose the route of diversity. It obviously has relevance. Could you tell us what it is?
Yes. When you have in your neighborhood a Baptist church, a Catholic church, a mosque, and a Jewish synagogue, you have diversity. If the people who worship in these places simply accept each other's existence, you simply have diversity. Diversity is to accept the existence of your neighbors who are different from you, and respecting and appreciating what makes them different in terms of age, gender, ethnicity, religion, disability, education, and national origin. I can continue and tell you why diversity is relevant.
Sure, please.
Yes, in the Quran, for instance, the Quran had plenty to say about this subject. It says, and among his signs are the creation of the heavens and the earth, and the diversity of your languages and your colors. There are signs for these. These are signs for those who know. This is in chapter 30, verse 22. It also says, we have assigned each of you a law and a way of life, a sharia and a way of life. If God had wanted, he could have made all of you a single community, but instead, he is testing you by means of what he has revealed to you. So compete in doing what is good. You will all return to God, and he will clarify these matters about which you have differed. This is in Surah 5, verse 48.
I think true acceptance, which goes way beyond diversity, it goes way beyond tolerance. To truly seeing each other as, if not brothers and sisters, at the very least first cousins, like we truly all are, requires us to acknowledge that there are others who are different from us. In order to peacefully coexist, you have to have somebody else to coexist with. Otherwise, it's just peaceful existence. I hate to get etymological and epistemological on us, but I think there's a truth there. But I think there's an underlying religious truth for all of us as well. And it's not necessarily as obvious as the derivation of the words. To truly believe in a monotheistic faith, to truly believe in the existence of only one God, which I think if you ask most people who are critics of religion, they would probably cite as the first reason for religious non-peaceful coexistence, because of the difference of beliefs and the need to think that my God's bigger than your God. But in truth, if you logically approach what true monotheism is, essential to the belief in one and only one God has to be that just because you call that one God by a different name and I call that one God by a different name, we're still praying to the same God. Because there is no other God that we could be praying to, because there can be only one. And that must, by logic and definition, lead us to a universalistic worldview that has to invite other faiths, other diversities, other traditions, to anticipate your next question, including those who will completely reject or question the existence of God.
Don't get in front of me, Dr. Weisman.
but it's all part of this. It's all part of the same mosaic.
Yes, and I think if we looked at diversity or religion and actually refer to it as the translation of deen is in Islam, a way of life, then we might be getting to a broader platform that we can actually build this on logically. So tell me, do we, Dr. Kaskas, accept the atheists among us? And how can you possibly find a Quranic support for that idea?
Very simple. Yes, I do. You see, I don't have to think much about this because I follow the example of Prophet Muhammad,
Yes.
who is the most capable, actually, of understanding the Quran revealed to him. When he was asked to govern in the city of Medina, the city had a population of 45% idol worshippers, 40% Jews, 15% Muslims.
Yes.
And he considered them all and called them in the document that he gave these people and based on which he governed. We call it the Constitution of Medina. He accepted all of them as equal. And the essence of that constitution was the freedom of religion. Everyone was allowed to practice their religion and their belief, or not to have a religion or any belief, in the best way possible. So they all lived together as equal. If Prophet Muhammad accepted idol worshippers within his town and called them part of the Ummah, I should accept atheists as next door neighbors and just live with them. If I don't want them to be atheists because I care so much about their salvation, I can be an example representing my religion, and if they like that, that's fine. But we can all live together in peace as long as we respect the humanity of the other, like the Rabbi said. So it's not a matter of finding Quranic support for this. It's the actual example of the Prophet in the city he governed.
Yes.
Unfortunately, Khalil, I have to tell you this. Yes. Unfortunately, Muslims did not learn much of that first experiment of pluralism.
Yeah.
They were not living in Medina in diversity. They were living in pluralism, which is taking diversity a step forward. So, they understood the purpose of being there is not to just know each other, but to engage each other. Okay. Yeah. So anyway, Muslims did not benefit much of that example, except for a few exceptions. For instance, in Andalusia, Muslims were governing Christians and Jews and Muslims, and they lived together in peace.
In Spain,
and that example lasted over 400 years. Yes. So it was an important lesson for us to learn from today, even. Yes. Here in the United States, the law respects everybody's freedom to believe or not to believe. So I have no choice but to accept my next door neighbor, regardless whether he have the same belief or don't have any belief. So
I think that's right, and I think there's also Quranic support for it. I'll come back to you. Steve Weisman, can you accept your atheist neighbor as a co-equal in our paradigm of religious community that we're producing? We're trying to get beyond just tolerance. That's what I'm trying to get to.
Right. Logically, yes. Textually, I think yes as well. Practically, I think we have no choice. It is another belief. It's a belief in a null set, the way we're defining, our set theory. But it's a belief in a null set, and therefore it has to be taken seriously as a belief. And I too can bring text that isn't text that was meant to teach this, but does, even though it's inadvertent. The people called for a king. And the prophet Samuel came before them and said, "Why do you need a human king? You have God." And the people said, "You are correct, but we still need a human king so that we can be like our neighbors." And God self said to Samuel, "Give them what they want." If God can be comfortable with that, particularly after all the prohibitions about the difficult texts of having to kick the natives out of the land, lest they be a snare to you in your worship of me, then I think there's a pretty clear message there. And it's the message we need to hear, and it's not the message we usually do hear.
Well, this is true. The idea of keeping religion private and not bringing it forth to the public square is a little bit of a challenge, isn't it?
A little bit.
Is it real? Can we possibly actually do that? Can human beings actually do that? Keep their religion at home while they go to work, while they vote, while they build classrooms?
Why do we need to do that, Khalid? Why do we need to do that?
Go right ahead.
We don't need to do that at all. As a matter of fact, my religion is my way of life.
Yeah.
I live my religion every minute of my life. At least I try to, Yeah. And I usually don't talk much about Islam. I just show it, And if I have to, I say a few words about it, only if I'm asked. But try to be a Muslim by example.
Yes.
This is the best way to do it. So we don't have to leave our religion at home. My religion is a lot of values that are valuable to my neighbors. And they're not much different from the values my Jewish friends have, or my Christian friends have, or my atheist friends have. Atheist is not equal immoral.
Yeah. Oh, good point.
Not in the people I've met. At least those that I've known.
Yes.
Were as moral in their behavior as I am.
Yes.
Matter of fact, this morality is not the issue at all. The issue is there a resurrection after death? Is there a day of judgment? Is there eternal life with God? These are issues that are really not related directly to our coexistence, life on earth. I can very well live my religion and accept the others as they are. Accepting the otherness of the other is what pluralism is all about.
That's beautiful. I think our community can use some value of this. Now, there are people who actually believe that religion is divisive. I mean, there are people who actually declare that our imams, preachers, ministers, rabbis are the source of the problem. Do you concur? Or, of course, you do not, but you do know that this is an issue that we have to address.
Absolutely. Absolutely. John Lennon sang it in Imagine. With all of that list of things that divide us, and no religion too.
And no religion too, right?
He's outright called us out on it. Yeah. And how big a Beatles fan I am. I have had to make my peace with Brother John on that one for years. Yeah. Because there was so much that he had to offer that, to give him one slightly wrong step, I'm especially since the evidence doesn't exactly make my argument against him easy, because there's a lot of it. And Dr. Kaskas, I thank you for what you said to the last question, because I think it's the critical expression. I can't go out in public and be anything but who I am.
Yes.
Do I wear my head covering when I go out? Most of the time. Are there times when I cover it so that it's not obvious? Yes, if I think it's going to be divisive or dangerous. And that's can be a deliberate choice because of my concern for others, or for myself, depending on the circumstance.
Yes.
Do I go out into the public square and preach from a street corner, even to those who don't want to hear it? No. That's not what my religion is. That's not who I am. That's not what it's about. Do I force my religion on others in the public square? No. And I think that's where, Khalil, this issue of stopping the hate eventually has to take us, whether it's tonight or down the road someplace. Because as long as the secular system, as long as the communal system is set up deliberately or accidentally in such a way that all systems of belief are not equally valued and protected and cherished and accepted as legitimate, then as long as one person or one group gets to define the terms on their terms, we're going to have problems.
Yes,
we saw that mildly this year with the public schools opening on the day after, trying to open the day after Labor Day, which is when they would normally open, which happened to coincide with Rosh Hashanah.
Yes,
it's not
and the Jewish community had to fight for that. because nobody at the table putting the calendar together had recognized it as a problem. And it took everything we had to look and say, you wouldn't dare open the second semester on Christmas Day, but there's a truth. We live in a state where Easter Monday is a state holiday. Not even Easter Sunday. Easter Monday is a state holiday. There's one religion whose holidays are being protected. And when I talk about, our religious holidays, I know who is in the room with me, and I know how hard you all have been fighting with even less success to get recognition, at least for the Eids, in terms of public accommodation.
Only in state.
But it's a very, it's a small, annoying rather than dangerous issue, but it's a great example, I think, of just how pervasive some of the assumptions about our society are that are not working from a balanced playing field on issues of religion. And as long as that's the case, there's going to be the opportunity for people to say freedom of religion means that I have to be free to discriminate based on my religion.
Yes.
And that's not freedom of religion.
No, that's right. It's not freedom of religion. Well said. Tell me, I know there's a lot of common ground that we share from the Abrahamic tradition. I want to know from you, what is the deal breaker between the three major religions? And I know you both are very skilled at interfaith dialogue. You know all the right words, but make it clear for our audience, what is the deal breaker for more of an embrace of the religions that are not our own?
Right. You want to take this, Dr. Kaskas? I just had a shot.
Yeah, well, fine. I don't think I will ever have a deal breaker between you and I, Rabbi. I don't see even, I can't imagine something that will get in between us that will be a deal breaker. We can both have a deal breaker between us and an evangelical person. Maybe if he talks about Jesus being God, if he worshiped Jesus instead of God, if he talk about the ransom because he will be following a narrative different from the Quranic narrative as far as salvation is concerned. But between a Jew and a Muslim, it will be really stupid for any of them to embrace a deal breaker. Instead, we don't have anything that we really we're that different on.
We have one.
Yeah, we have. I mean,
Israel and Palestine.
Well, that's not religion,
right?
This is not religion.
I agree.
Yeah, I mean, there are 33 times or 34 times in the Tanakh, God is ordering you to welcome the stranger and deal and welcome and live with him like he's one of you. This is there is no need for this. It's and I grew up in the Jewish quarter in Beirut, and I know the story in details of why the Jews left Lebanon. They were not under any threats, but that's politics. That's another story. As far as your book and my book is concerned, if we are both adherent to these holy books, I don't at all see anything in these two books that can be a deal breaker. At least that's my point of view. As a matter of fact, I'm writing a book right now. I wrote it. It's almost done, and I need to publish it. It's called The Quran with references to the Tanakh. So
wow.
Yeah. So I mean,
wow.
Yeah. So I have thousands of verses from the Tanakh, referencing thousands of verses from the Quran with the same meaning. Yeah. I mean, the sender was the same. Yeah. The revelations came from the same place. So why would I want to have a deal breaker with any Jew? In fact, I see more unity than I see anything that will divide us.
I love it.
And if we approach the Middle East problem with this spirit, we will find solutions, I think.
I agree completely. My mentioning the Middle East problem is simply in terms of practical experience.
Right.
It's the one place where it feels like our own different experiences and our own communal emotional needs, and I'll put it in those terms,
Yes.
get in the way of our ability to read our text correctly.
Here you go.
It's almost a PTSD, at least on my side.
Yes, yes. As
And I
long
recognize
as we
it as such.
refer to our holy books, we have no problem.
Oh, well, I think I'll just step out and let you guys have the conversation. But I must, because I'm learning something here. But how can members of our communities overcome this religious hatred?
I'll take this one.
I'll
take a shot at this one.
All right.
I think the biggest trick is not to get sucked into playing the game.
Yeah.
And I'll express it in those terms.
Yeah.
You know, we all have our, within the Jewish community, the Christian community, the Muslim community, we all have our extremists.
Yeah.
If we were to hold an extremist conference, they would all go and they would get along even better than we're getting along here, because they have even more in common with each other than they do with the rest of us inside our religions.
Yes.
It's because they have a common approach to their texts and their traditions.
Okay.
I think that the trick is to avoid the extremism, to avoid the fundamental distancing to the extremes. And I think it goes to both ends, to be honest. I think the fact that every religion that has ever existed and made any dent in humanity has some variation on the golden rule.
Yeah.
You know, and the closer we can walk to that golden mean and live by that golden rule and avoid the extremes and be open to the reality that just because I see the world through my eyes doesn't mean that anybody else sees it through my eyes. They see it through their eyes the way I see it through mine.
Right.
And it's on me to understand how they see it. It's on me to teach others how I see it if I want them to understand me.
Mm-hmm.
But not to force myself on them to learn it. They have to be willing to learn, and I have to be willing to teach.
Yes.
And I think that's where all our religions begin. Between that and the absolutely brilliant TED talk that was given, and why do I always blank on her name? Karen Armstrong.
Armstrong, yeah.
When she was given the TED Prize in 2008, her acceptance speech was 22 minutes of brilliance, that the true core concept of religion as a generic ideal is human compassion.
Yeah.
Yes.
And she's right.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if I were to rewrite Hillel, whose answer to the proselyte was, who wanted to learn all of Torah on one foot, it was the golden rule. What is hateful to you, do not do unto others. The rest is commentary. Go and learn it.
Yes.
If I were to dare to rewrite the brilliance of Hillel in answering that question, I would use Karen Armstrong and say, what is hateful to you, do not do unto others. We live in a world of compassion. Go and learn how to be compassionate.
Yes.